When the sun fell, we sealed ourselves inside the apartment. Curtains drawn, lamps extinguished, every thread of light smothered. Only the candle remained, its glow of fragile defense against the night pressing at the windows. Beyond our walls, the earth quaked with distant artillery, the roar of engines ripping the sky apart. Bathory's angels clashed with the tyrant's vultures overhead. Death stalked the air, yet still Mother and Father commanded us to celebrate the new year. Father, born in Kimru, had brought Sawin with him. He told of it often, though his voice shifted with his audience. To the market crowd, he spoke of costumes, of candy and bonfires, of feasts and tricks. But when he whispered to me alone, the mask fell. Then Sawin became a night when the veil thinned, when the dead pressed their faces against ours, and the living glimpsed other world in return. He told of tricksters and treatsters, goblins and robins, of masks that could deceive monsters or hide us among them, of food left out for the wandering dead, sometimes in reverence, sometimes in fear, and sometimes because the living themselves were starving. He spoke of stories told in the dark, stories sharp enough to pierce time itself, where past, present, and future curled together like smoke. When he spoke that way, Sawin felt older than the war, older than nations, older even than death. I could see, with his words, the long journey crossing over Oceanus into Otherworld. I could smell the sea and hear the cries of heroes who bound themselves with their own entrails to continue fighting. I could see the cruel robin stealing babes from their cradles, the goblin cobbler laboring by moonlight until coin broke his charm. His stories made the dead stir at the edges of my sight. But when it came to actually celebrating it, our bonfire was a single stub of tallow, hard-earned from scraps of fat Mother boiled down. We might have sold it for coin, but tonight it burned for us. The candlelight twisted our shadows, tall and grotesque on the peeling walls, each flicker making our bodies seem less our own. Still, it was better than going without any light like we did most nights, unable to even see our own shadows in the darkness of the war. The candle meant that our shadows grew and shrank as the flames danced and burned. Our feast was pitiful compared to Father's tales. Canned tuna, a whisper of cider, a few soul cakes kneaded from stale flour by both my mother and brother. Still, it was a banquet next to the soldiers' rations of black rye, powdered milk, and gritty sausage. Our masks were paper, stripped from Father's hospital work rolls. Crayons stained them with crude faces. Butcher twine cut into our skin as we tied them on. The holes barely let us see, yet when I looked at my family through their masks, they seemed uncanny, half claimed by another world. When silence finally fell outside, when the food was gone and the bottle was empty, we told stories. Candlelight quivered between us, and with the masks on, every word landed heavier, as though each story were no longer told, but conjured. Mother went first. Her mask was green, lips twisted into a grin of gold teeth, a paper crown cocked upon her head. She leaned back in her wooden chair, crossing her arms, her eyes glinting at me and my brother. Her whisper made us lean closer, though part of me wanted to lean away. Mother told us a story about an old witch that ate children to live forever, a witch that would try to trick children into her hut, that would move on giant chicken legs. And if there was no children to trick, then she would seek out the children. She would carry with her a magical broom that would let her fly, and if she found any children that were alone, especially good-looking boys and girls like my brother and I, she would take them back to her hut, bathing in their blood to keep her skin healthy, and she would grind their bodies into a mess that even their own parents wouldn't recognize. A witch named Elizabeth Bathory, the same name as Her Excellency. When my mother's voice died, the silence pressed cold fingers down my spine. The candle shrank low, and the shadows towered taller than we were. Valeska stared at the flame, cupping his hand toward it as if he could cradle the fire into eternity without touching it. He would have grabbed the flame in his hands if he wasn't scared of being burned. His longing frightened me more than the dark. Then my father leaned forward. His mask was crimson, scarred with painted warts and stitches, with too many eyes. His shadow split and doubled, twitching behind him as though it might detach. His voice was low, but each pause made the air shiver.
A long time ago, in a place very far from here, there once was a little girl with no father and no mother. But she dreamt of a world of justice, fairness, compassion, and creativity. An imaginary world, but it was her world. Then the little girl did what all little girls do, and she grew up. And now grown, she saw that the world she lived in was nothing like the world of her dreams. So, while the world she was born into grew cold, dark, and cruel, she didn't. She decided to make her world real. She created her perfect imaginary world, and she pried open the gates between the imaginary and the real, and welcomed others to a world without danger. And even now, an eternity later, she still beckons and welcomes any who can travel between the imaginary and the real.
But then his story veered. Mother turned sharply toward him, but he did not falter. The candle dwindled to a nub, shadows swelling monstrous around us. I dared not turn and face my own shadow behind me. My brother's eyelids were heavy, and I kept my eyes on my father's, scared to turn around and face my own shadow.
One Samhain night, a long time ago, back when I was young and still in Saimaru, she came for me. She didn't take me to her world, but rather a world that was between our worlds.
Father murmured. His words no longer sounded like a story, but a confession.
A house that was a home to the lights that shine only in darkness. A haven to heroic horrors. A hell to horrific heroes. A place made to scare, but also to comfort. It was here that I ate candy for the first and last time in my life. I faced challenges just like in the stories of old, and in the center of the house, I was offered a prize.
The wick hissed into an ember. His face vanished into the dark. His voice the only tether, proving I was not alone. Now it felt less like a story he was telling for everyone, and more like it was a story he was telling to just me.
The big-hearted girl offered me a crown, told me that I could be a prince in her lands, that rather than being a peasant, living in a world at war, I could be a royal, living in a world at peace. What I saw in the crown's golden sheen was not myself, but the faces of those left behind in my world. If I ruled as a prince, then I would rule alone, and if I lived as a peasant, I would never be alone. And as I looked closer into that golden reflection, I saw not just the family I would leave behind, but also the family I would never have if I left. I saw in that crown you.
The ember bled out. Darkness smothered us whole. His last word slid through the void like a hiss. My eyelids heavy and soothed by the words of my father. The light gone, I grew heavy with exhaustion.
I saw you, and that is why I refused a gift from a dear friend.
His voice became a lull, sinking into my blood like a spell. I closed my eyes, heavy as stone, and dreamed of that place between places, where the shadows are thicker than flesh, and the light does not comfort, but remembers.